The following is an Operation Podcast production. That kind of hard look in the mirror comes up of, am I proud of the man that I have become?
Midlife is not a specific number. I think it's more of a mindset. You probably know people like this too. I know some really young 60-somethings, and I know some really old 30-somethings. And I'm sure you've seen some of your friends let themselves go already.
Who's in their 30s, in their 20s. Hell, if you're an 18-year-old right now, the true life-changing information begins thinking that far in the future when you're that young.
But how do we really talk, guys, man to man, as man to young man? How can I really help you? What do I want to share with you so that you can learn and develop your own operating system? It's important to stop seeing aging as something to fear and start seeing it as something aspirational. Hey, I'm Greg Scheinman, founder of Midlife Male, husband, father, entrepreneur, and I am here on Ever Forward Radio. You know, one, I think midlife is not a specific number. I think it's more of a mindset. You probably know people like this too. I know some really young 60-somethings, and I know some really old 30-somethings, that are there. I mean, I'm sure you've seen some of your friends let themselves go already. Maybe reach the proverbial crisis themselves without even realizing it. And then you see some other guys out there that are thriving and seemingly like have it all figured out, and the game is slowed down for them and they know where the puck is going. And you're just like, ooh, how's that happening? You know, or how is that different? And what are we doing to learn, to experience, to define or redefine what midlife looks like at any age or stage that we're at, thinking, okay, what do I want my life to look like 3 years ahead, 5 years ahead? What did I see growing up? What did I see, with my father? What did I see with my grandfather or my boss or colleagues at work or my supposed teachers, like literally and figuratively teachers in life? So what do I want to glean from that and apply to my own life for how I want to operate?
Yeah.
Whatever age you're at. I just happen to see things through the lens of a midlife male because that's exactly where I am now at 51. And as I started getting older, and we can get into this, these tipping points, these different stages, it became obvious to me that I needed to make some changes. I needed to do some things differently. I needed to start listening and hearing and learning from guys that were out ahead of me and doing it better. I had a lot of questions that I didn't have answers to. Yeah. And I knew all the why I wanted to be healthier, why I wanted to be happier, why I wanted to have enough money, in a way to be a good husband, be a good father. Where I struggled was in the how.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by the how?
I didn't know how to do the things I wanted to do, meaning I didn't feel like I had great mentors for a while. I didn't have my father around. Since I was a teenager, we discussed that. So where I struggled was, well, who am I going to ask? How am I going to get the help I need? And at the time, I also struggled with identity and ego and narcissism. And from the outside looking in, everything looked great, like I had it all covered. So it was like, is this going to be a sign of weakness if I start asking for all this help or admitting that I don't have it covered, or telling, I can't tell my partners in business that I'm, unhappy or going through this. I didn't want to bring it home to my wife. Yeah. I didn't want to burden my kids. So I actually, that's when I started my podcast, going back years ago, because I said, what if I put a microphone on the table? What if I
channel all of these thoughts?
What if I'll just make myself the host. Then I'm an authority figure. Then I'm obligated to ask these kinds of questions.
Then it's not a weakness, right?
No, it's not a weakness. It's a strength. Yeah. And I invited guys on that I thought represented what I thought success was looking like. I wanted to get fitter, so I invited really fit guys and asked them what they were doing. I wanted to become better with money, so I invited some really smart wealth managers and financial people on and started tapping into my network and an extended network. And that's where I was starting to figure out, okay, getting some answers to the test and starting to take what I learned, curating it down to what was working for me, eliminate what I thought wouldn't work, and then testing and retesting it over a period of years, really from 47 to 50, you guys, were the three kind of pivotal years of midlife progress.
You didn't really start making having these intentional thoughts and making intentional changes in your life until 47?
Really, I had experienced success and experienced failure multiple times for both. I have a great wife, amazing boys. I was in shape, but not in great shape. I was drinking too much. I was staying out too late. I was networking very differently. You know, I was going through all the motions.
Networking.
Yes, I was doing all of the things that you were, supposed to do, following the path. I was chasing a lot of salary and title. And I was also experiencing a lot of problems of prosperity, that I call them too, on this kind of roller coaster. I was getting a little heavier, getting a little softer, losing some energy. I'm really liking who I was. And it really was at 47. And I've said this before, that was the same age as when my father passed away. So at 47, I came to this position where I was like, you know what, I can kind of squander life and these opportunities that I have, or I can make some changes and pour rocket fuel on the next phase of my life and really look to make it the best phase that it can possibly be. I've now learned enough to know that this is not enough and that I can do better and live better and happier and healthier and wealthier and longer and stronger. And what does that look like? If I can do that for me, then can I help other guys do the same?
What do you think it would take to effectively convey the message that you're talking about now and that you kind of like experienced at 47 to someone at 17 so that they don't have to wait from 17 to 47 in theory?
I'm a father of two boys. They are 21 and 18. So I'm right in the thick
right
of
there,
it.
yeah.
I'm right there. And I think about this all the time. How can I help my boys who are really young men? How can I help them become better men? How can I help them become the best versions of themselves and have that really mean something? Not a cliche, not this just live your best life, be the best version of yourself, and here's your motivational Monday
what does
quote,
it even mean? What does it
those
look
things.
like?
Right. But how do we really talk, guys, man to man, as man to young man, and say, how can I really help you? What do I want to share with you so that you can learn and develop your own operating system? A lot of what I talk about now in midlife is developing this personal operating system, this midlife action plan or map, because if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. And I talk about that a lot with my boys. And I also try to have my boys talk to other men because they don't always want to listen to their dad. Trust me, dad's not that cool.
Yeah.
Dad doesn't have it all figured out, Dad is lecturing me or dad is doing this. But
we can hear the same thing, but when we hear from somebody that's not an authority figure or a parent, it kind of just clicks differently, right?
Correct. I do a lot of sharing with my boys of conversations that I have with other men that inspire me.
Oh, great approach.
Because that's how I've done most of my best learning has been not from doing the talking, has been from the listening. And that in itself took me years to figure out.
I bet. Yeah, it always does.
Stop being the talker. Stop thinking you've got making sure everyone knows that you have it covered, that you have all the answers and you're the entrepreneur, you're the authority. It's like, you don't. Start listening to smarter people. You're going to go a lot further there. So I do a lot of sharing the conversations that I have, which is one of the reasons I'm so grateful to get to do what I do now. I share those with my boys and say, take a listen to this, or I clip this part out. And this is, I think, really important.
So you just like DMing, finding like reels and podcasts and just like blowing up your son's like email.
That I'm doing constantly.
Instagram.
Yes, that I'm doing constantly. And I think they appreciate getting that more than they see me posting my own stuff, which is like mortifying to them. And them getting messages from their friends are like, did you see what your dad put up today? Like, you see your dad with his shirt off again. Did you see your dad doing this? So yeah, I'm embarrassing to them to an extent, but I also hope that I make them proud. I also hope that they see by comparison, maybe, and look, you can say comparison is the thief of joy, and it's not out there to compare everything. But hey, am I doing things differently from maybe some of the other dads? Am I operating at a different level? Again, do we care about what we put on our bodies, in our bodies, what we do, how we operate, how we approach things? And we look to surround ourselves with people that seemingly are living lives by design that we emulate and can see for ourselves, because 18 will be 25, 25 will ultimately be 30. I mean, we're all moving forward, whether we're doing it well or not as well. We're not getting any younger. No. Aging is inevitable. And I think it's important to stop seeing aging as something to fear and start seeing it as something aspirational, no matter what age you're at. My 18-year-old, for example, is not as excited to go off to college and graduate and move out of the house as my now 21-year-old, was. But here are opportunities, and we're going to get there. We're going to figure it out together. Here's how you thrive. And they should hear from a guy at 39 who's about to turn 40. They should hear from all these different people.
As you're kind of unpacking this midlife aspect, one word comes to mind that you just said, and that's a sense of pride, feeling proud. I have to imagine, we'll just stick with a guy, as a guy going through different phases of your life, and I think I have to imagine, especially going into midlife, that kind of hard look in the mirror comes up of, am I proud of the man that I have become? Am I proud of my work? Am I proud of my relationships? Am I proud of the person I am when no one else is looking? And especially, I think, for maybe someone like you and me who no longer has the first and foremost, typically, father figure or, parental figure as this guy, this father around to kind of get that, whether or not, hey, Dad, are you proud of me? Literally asking, but kind of getting that feeling. Do you think as we navigate midlife or contemplate that, is it really a matter of a level of pride we have or don't have in our life?
I spent a lot of years seeking approval, seeking validation, seeking others to be proud of me or wanting them to be proud of me. Like I needed that. Only more recently have I come to realize that I've got to be proud of myself. And it's in my book. It starts with, that long, hard look in the mirror and asking yourself, like, hey, am I proud of who I am? And for a while, I wasn't, and it was all my own fault.
That's the thing about pride, isn't it? I think if you get really, really real and honest, if you have it, it's because of you. And if you don't, it's also because of you.
I think that's exactly it. It's about taking ownership. And you can try to blame others. It's your boss's fault or your colleague's fault or this fault or that one's fault. There's a lot of blame, that you can do. And you can carry a lot of anger. You can carry a lot of, resentment, towards others. But at the end of the day, like that's all bullshit. It's, hey, if you really want to get real and get raw and get naked and vulnerable with yourself, it's you. It's taking ownership. It's the choices you make and the actions you take lead you to the outcome. We attract and repel exactly what we deserve. Mm-hmm. And there were years I was attracting the wrong people, the wrong kinds of opportunities.
How did you know that? Only now looking back, or were you aware along the way?
I was aware. One of the things I say is that chasing authenticity where authenticity doesn't exist is exhausting. And I knew.
That's really good. That's really good.
I was playing a role. I was playing a part. It didn't feel right.
Yeah.
The deals didn't feel right. The schedule didn't feel right. The clothes didn't feel right. And that was perpetuating year after year. And when that happens, you get conformity, complacency, redundancy. Your anxiety builds. Stress goes up. You try to either buy your way out of problems or you're looking for quicker fixes and solutions to situations and circumstances versus hitting the pause button and saying, you know what? Let me really think about this. Mm-hmm. Let me reset here. Let me create a system for myself with preparation, with discipline, with accountability that really measures up to who I want to be and how I want to actually act.
But how did you know how to do that?
That has to start with you. That's the thing. I really did not know how to do it. I knew I wanted that. I knew that what I was doing wasn't working. So it's like the Seinfeld with George Costanza. You know, like if you saw that, and maybe this dates
Which
me,
one? Oh,
where
Team Seinfeld.
where nothing's working for George, so he does the exact opposite.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, well, if my life is terrible and nothing I'm doing is working, then by the transitive property, doing the opposite should get me to the results I'm looking for. So you consciously started doing the opposite, and that really, Chase, is what I started doing. And the reality is the answers are obvious. The choices are obvious. I started having conversations with other men. I started listening to what they were doing. I started to then test and retest what I was learning from them. And when things were working, I would do more of them. And when things were not working, I would do less of them.
Genius stuff here.
Simplicity scales, complexity fails. Okay, and I'm a simpleton.
Yeah.
And I got it down to a very simple question: better one or better two? Two choices. There's typically two choices. Do I wake up this morning or do I sleep in? Do I kiss my wife in the morning when I wake up, or do I roll out of bed and kind of take her for granted after 25 years of marriage? Do I go to the gym today, or do I stop? Do I swap the Diet Coke that I've been drinking 6 of every day for water? Do I stop at Lululemon on the way home from work because I deserve another $200 worth of impulse purchase retail therapy?
Me. Yeah.
Or do I put that money aside and invest it? And the answers are obvious. We know the answers to the test. The hard part is having the discipline to make the right choice the majority of the time. But when you start making the right choice the majority of the time, the majority of your life gets better. It's that simple. It's not perfect. It's not 100% of the time. But can we string together a series of better decisions, the right decisions, the majority of the time? And when we screw up, and we will, mistake, misstep, wrong choice, whatever, just start the chain over again.
It makes me think, I definitely resonate with what you're talking about, of looking to particularly other men to go, all right, you know, I see something that they're doing and or they have, or a way of just their essence, their being that I like and I would like to have or more of, especially in the absence of my father and becoming a early 20-something, mid 20-something, late 20-something young man. And a lot of those served me. I won't say that any one of them wholeheartedly served me. It definitely had some good and some bad with it. So I guess my question is, in the absence of a father figure, in the absence of these other men that we can maybe pull from, whether friends, peers, coworkers, how can we source if we don't have a readily available supply?
It's a great question, because there are a lot of guys out there, and again, all different ages and stages, that don't have deep networks. They don't have a deep bench. But here's what I also believe. I believe that anything and everything you want is available out there. It exists. You just have to be willing to go find it and go after it. And what you can do is you can develop skills and strategies and tactics to determine, again, what works for you, who to listen to, who not to. Again, what I call aggregate, curate, eliminate, the ACE principle. Aggregate from all the noise and the people and the influencers and the books and the podcasts and everything that are out there. Curate down to what works for you and eliminate what does not. And you got to trust your gut and your intuition on that. But you know what you can do? They can listen to shows like yours. They can pick up a copy of my book. They can use these platforms that exist that are not inherently bad. They can use them for good. And you can consume, there can be positive consumption, materials, advice, experiences, guides, pull it all in. You can use the consumption to then flip it to start producing more than you actually consume. And I think that's a key point too. So you may not know me personally, but there's a lot of material I put out there that you can absorb. And hopefully some of it works, and some of it will, maybe some of it won't. You get to decide that. You get to choose that. I don't know half the guys that I've learned from. I've read their book. I've listened to them on other shows that I identify with that, or I can look at that guy and go, oh, he's 55, I'm 51. Okay, he's married. He has a couple of kids. This is what he does. Okay, I identify with that. I can apply that. And at the same time, I can discount some others. Okay, here's what this guy is doing, where he is, what he said about wealth is different from what my beliefs are. What he's doing is life are different. So I'm going to put that on the shelf. I'm not going to, I'm going to take that in. But there are coaches, there are retreats, there are, I don't love the word, masterminds and all this other, but you become the aggregator and curator and eliminator again of seeing through what's marketing, what's opportunism, what's really relatable, credible, and ultimately aspirational. And this doesn't have to cost you anything. There's so much free information.
Yeah.
What you have to get really good at is dissemination and the curation. And then most importantly, the application.
Most important.
Most important. You got to put it to work. And you can't do everything. You can't be flip-flop. Pick a horse.
Yeah.
pick a horse and you got to stick to it. Otherwise, you end up in this perpetual cycle of kind of like paralysis by analysis. I'm doing so much work on myself that I'm actually not making any progress.
You're not doing
at all.
anything, yeah.
Right? It's just, it becomes this vicious cycle and circuitous in there. I'm reading every book. I'm listening to every podcast. I'm doing everything that this person says and that person says. And why is nothing good happening? And you're exhausted. You're spinning your wheels. It's like two equally strong people playing tug of war.
Yeah, yeah.
You're stuck there. You're pulling this stuff in opposite directions.
You're sponging it all up, but you're not actually, wringing it out on anything.
Correct. So whether it's me, whether it's you, whether it's any number of individuals out there that are purporting to have an offering or whatever it is, like, be very cognizant about what success looks like for you. Write that down. And then go search around for individual situations, circumstances, materials, events, experiences that align with what success looks like for you.
What about if we do have mentors in our life, other guys in our life, and we are pulling, we work next to them, we listen to their podcast, we read their book, we go to their workshop, we do whatever. How do we know, what is like a fair litmus test to know that this is time well spent, this is money well spent, this is actually serving the future man that I want to be? Because I think it's pretty easy for us to get caught up in, like you were saying, I'm doing all the things. And on the surface, this is what you're supposed to do. This is personal development. This is self-help. This is becoming a better man, a more confident man, more prideful man. But how do you measure that?
So one, progress is a process, and incremental progress is often difficult to assess. Meaning, let's just say you haven't worked out in 6 years, and today's the day you're starting your new fitness program, and you take your photo on day one, and you go to the gym and you do your hour and a half of your workout with your new trainer, your new program you're on, and tomorrow morning you wake up and you take the picture of yourself again. Are you going to notice a difference?
No, probably not.
Are you going to feel a little bit better about yourself because you completed day one? I would offer yes. Are you going to feel better about yourself when you check the box on day two on the calendar? But if you keep going and if you follow the program and there's a purpose, a process, and ultimately there's a payoff, now take that photo of yourself in 90 days. And I guarantee you will see a difference. More importantly, you will feel a difference. And you will have felt the difference all 90 of those days. It's almost like you could train in like the big sweatsuit and everything else, keep it all covered up and everything else, almost bodybuilder style. And then while we're doing the cut, and then here comes the big reveal. Yeah. But along the way, you already feel better because you have that momentum. The motivation comes from the discipline. It's not the other way around. I started and I'm continuing and I'm doing it. And now I'm liking myself better. And now I'm feeling a little bit better. And that's momentum, and that's positivity, and that's pride. Now, here's what's happening. Now I'm starting to get the payoff. Now, pants got a little looser. That 35, 36, whatever pair of jeans I'm wearing now when I used to wear 32 in high school, now I'm going backwards. My answer is not to just keep buying bigger pants. The answer is like, when do you hit the point where you go, okay, I need to do the work. And this is all areas. They're all connected. So you start putting in that work. And then you don't want to wreck the good work that you're doing with bad food. So you start becoming more intentional about what you put in your body. And you start cleaning that up. and your energy level goes up and you feel a little bit better. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to dress a little bit better right now because all my pants are, falling off, or now my arms are getting bigger and I want to, I want that t-shirt to fit right or whatever I'm wearing. Okay, so now I'm going to upgrade that. And all of these things are incremental along the way. But what's fundamental, preparation, accountability, discipline, and that's consistency. Consistency gets talked about a lot, but it gets talked about incorrectly, in my opinion.
How so?
Oh, Greg, you're so consistent. I could never be that consistent. Oh, Chase, you're so consistent, and you do a show every week, and you've been doing it for years, and 2 shows a week. I could never be that consistent. It's like, no, we're all consistent. Well, let me tell you the hard truth. You're consistently making poor choices, okay? You're consistently drinking. You're consistently consuming hours of social media a day. You're consistently eating, poor foods. You're consistently not working out. You're consistently getting poor sleep. You're consistently blaming everybody else. We're just as consistent. It's where, again, you're applying your consistency. It's the same with motivation. I don't want to get up and do this every day. It's not always fun. Certainly, like 200 pounds is 200 pounds, fucking heavy. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's heavy. There's days you don't want to do it. But it's on the calendar. We're going to do it anyway. The discipline gets you more motivated, and you feel better when it's done.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So I think it's those things. And it's back to, how do we live and lead by example? That's pride. I think the best thing I can do for my boys, live and lead by example. Am I a better example not drinking than I was when I was drinking heavily? I'll tell you an example. Kids are always watching. I knew I had a drinking problem, if you will, or a perception of even a drinking problem. That shows you I had a drinking problem. When my best friend's daughter drew me a birthday card, I think I was 45, 46, okay? Drew me a birthday card, and she drew the birthday card as a bottle of Patron tequila. She drew...
That's what she associated you with.
Yep, because when she thought of me, she associated me with coming over and drinking tequila with her father. I would always come over with a bottle of Patron tequila.
Wow.
And she associated me with drinking.
So how did that land on you? When she gave you that card, what did that do? What did that mean?
I mean, it was a major wake-up call. Not that particular day or night, because I was probably drunk at the time, probably partying and celebrating my birthday at her house when I got that card with a giant bottle on the table. Matter of fact, I think I have that picture, the card and the bottle, and I've kept that as a reminder. But when I woke up the next day, and that was the card, and I saw it, and I'm hungover, it means time to make a change. Because if she's seeing that, what are my own kids seeing? What are they thinking? What's normal to them? What's midlife to them? What do dads do? How do they act? They're watching.
You said earlier going backwards. That stuck with me. I feel like guys, when we're trying to better ourselves, more often than not, we have an idea, a version of ourselves in the past that we're trying to get back to. I'm trying to get back to that weight. I'm trying to get back to those size pants. I'm trying to get back to, squatting this number, benching this number. I'm trying to get back to this thing. Is that the best way to go? Should we be trying to get back somewhere, or what's right or wrong about that?
Don't look back. You're not going that way. We're moving forward. You can look back to learn from the experience, but the direction that we're going is forward. I mean, we're sitting here, I'm staring right at it. It's ever forward right now. The direction we're going is forward. So what does positive forward momentum look like? What does, I have a friend that says, relentless forward motion. That's where we're going. It's not about getting back to my 32-inch waist. It's about getting to 32-inch waist now.
But how do we know? Because there's definitely, I think, a lot of motivation to be had in looking at, okay, because when we look in the past, we see what we accomplished. When we look in the past, I see I was able to fit into this gene. I was able to move this amount of weight. I was able to reach this level in my job. So I think there's a lot of motivation that can be found in like breadcrumbs for success. So how do we know we're looking at tips and tools to get us where we want to go in the future without relying on or staying stuck in the past?
So I think at who you're looking at, again, who you're looking at, including yourself, are you asking yourself, is that what success looks like? Is that what success looks like for me? And everyone's definition is different. So we get into this, in developing your operating system, developing your map. I have a few rules that now I've developed after all these conversations that I kind of live by. Number one is knowing what's important is what's most important. You get to decide that. For years, for me, that was salary and title and this path of what you're quote unquote supposed to do. Today, it's what I call my 6 F's. It's a more holistic metric of what success looks like. Family, fitness, finance, food, fashion, style, fun, the things that are important to me.
Covers about all the bases there. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does success look like in there? And if it matches, if it works and it's in alignment with what I feel like success looks like, lives like, feels like, all earns like, all of those things, then I'm going forward in that direction.
Would you call those core values?
Yeah, I call them core values. I call them principles. And my F's don't have to be your F's or anything else. This really is about, again, determining for you what success looks like. And in every one of those categories, we'll go down the rules and they start to work themselves out. Because now this has to be measurable. It has to be quantifiable. Because that's also success. Number 2, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. I operated rudderless, without a map, without a playbook for a very long period of time. That's a very reactive way of doing things.
What's the phrase? Like a ship sailing under any wind will land in any port kind of thing? I'm probably butchering the phrase, but just,
and you're smarter than I am, so I don't know that one. But again, if you don't know where you're going, you're never going to get there. Right. And one thing I also talk about is, if you're 1 degree off course, it doesn't seem like much. But if you're 1 degree off course for a year,
along the way you're fine.
Right.
But then
or in that flight
later,
or on that ship,
yeah.
Guess what? You're ending up somewhere completely different. So knowing where you're going and actually staying that course is vital to your success. Number 3, like I talked about, aggregate, curate, and eliminate. You got to do that because otherwise it's overwhelming. So you got to skew from the noise. You got to curate what works for you. You got to eliminate what doesn't. Then you get into number 4, show me your calendar. I'll show you your priorities. What we schedule gets done. If your family is really your number 1 priority, it's the first thing that's scheduled on your calendar. I put all my personal stuff first. Then I reverse them. Then I back into my professional commitments, then everything. And then I look at how much open space is still left. And I used to be obsessed with filling all the open space because I have to be busier and I have to be more productive. And these are working hours and everything. Now I intentionally leave open space.
I love open space.
That's where the magic happens.
I love that white space, yeah.
Absolutely. And number 5, grace, gratitude, and latitude. To your point about looking backwards and all this. We're too hard on ourselves. We're way too hard on ourselves. So when we break the chain, when we have a misstep, a mistake, a failure, whatever it might be, and they're inevitable, you just start back over again. And to the guys, men, women, any age stage, whoever who's out there that are listening right now, they go, you know what, I don't know when to start. I ask this all the time. When do you start? I could say, I had my thing at 47 in the parking lot, or I had this, but that's all bullshit too. It's not one thing. It's not one moment.
That's just the moment you actually realize
we'll get
it.
somewhere. Yeah, and it's the culmination of all kinds of moments and other things. The truth of the matter is today's the day you start. Whenever you get there, whenever you feel today's the day to start. That's the day you swap the soda for water. That's the day you start going for a walk instead of, taking the Uber. That's the day you start saving instead of spending. It's always, and I do want to just kind of delta that with, that doesn't mean be impulsive. That doesn't mean be galactically irresponsible. That doesn't mean to listen to some guy say, quit your job and follow your passion, and you walk in and turn in your papers, that day.
Making a decision is good, but, be mindful of the ripple effects.
Yes, be intentional. Today is the day that you start, and if you've determined that, hey, this is not the career path I want to be on, or this is not the kind of life, okay, well, today is the day you start making the plan. The plan to go from where you are to where you want to go.
Yeah.
There were years that I was unhappy in a professional capacity, but it would have been incredibly responsible for me to just up and quit and throw away 10, 13, 14 years worth of equity or worth of stock or worth of everything. So it's okay, what's the plan? And a family to take care of, what's the plan? Today's the day I'm starting to think about what my life is going to look like 3 years from now or next year from now. And I'm going to back into how I approach this and work this so I get where I want to go, that map, but I'm going to do it responsibly. I'm going to start seeing it a little bit differently. I'm going to take that paycheck or take those commission checks or take those sick days and use them for something. Use it all for good. See it differently. You know what? I'm not angry at the job. I'm not angry at the position. I'm not blaming my partners. I'm not doing anything. Taking ownership of it. But today's the day I'm starting to move the ball forward in a different direction. And say, here's how I'm going to prepare for that.
I love that. I think ownership, taking responsibility, radical responsibility, shout out Jocko, extreme ownership, just in any and every capacity, taking ownership of every facet of your life. When you do that, when that day comes, then everything else falls in line. There's so much, I think, especially as a man, that does not get changed despite our best efforts, despite us thinking we're moving the needle and doing certain things. I guarantee you're not where you want to be. You're not feeling how you want to feel. You're not looking how you want to look because you have not yet, over all areas of your life, decided, I am responsible for all of this, especially the things that you are going to fight tooth and nail that you feel like it's their fault. It's my boss's fault. It's my brother's fault. It's this person down the road. It's they cut me off. It's all of that. You have to take radical responsibility for everything. And until you do, you will not get where you want to be.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. And here's the other part of this. You don't have to be exceptional. This came up earlier. You don't have to be remarkable as a human being. You don't have to be Jocko or any of these other things. You don't have to be that. That also is not taking ownership or accountability when it's like, I can't, okay? Or these guys are different from me. Or they have advantages that I don't have, or any of these other things.
They have this training. They have this privilege. They have this whatever.
Correct. No. What you have to do is you just have to believe that you can make change, and then you have to be willing to actually do the work that it takes. And you have to, again, define what success looks like in each one of these categories. It might be very different for you than it is for me and anybody out there, but you go, okay, what's my standard for family if I say I'm putting my family first? And literally written standards, I attend 80% of every one of my children's games. Okay, not 100%. It's a hard standard to keep. But 80%, I attend 80% of both of my boys' games every time they've played. And the reason it's 80% is because, you know what? Life happens. I've got businesses to run. Sometimes there are trips that I have to take. You may get sick. It may be an away game from a team, whatever it might be. But that's the minimum standard that's set. So they know I'm going to be there 80% of the time. They also know 20% of the time they may look up in the stands and Dad's not going to be there. But they know there's a damn good reason why I wouldn't be. More often than not, I'm at 8. I beat that standard but that's the minimum standard. Same thing with health and fitness. I want to be 175 pounds, give or take 10 to 12% body fat, look pretty good naked, not be injured, be able to do what I want. That's the standard. So what do I have to do each day, each week to maintain that standard? Have an event I want to do that requires more training or amp it up? Okay, you turn the dial up a little bit. Want to go back to day-to-day life? A little more. Here's the standard. Here's a financial standard. And these are written, measurable, quantifiable. Like I got to wake up every day, Chase, and reread this. That's the map. That's the operating system. Those are the reminders that we need. At least I do. Wake up. What do I do today? Look at the calendar. Okay. Wake up. Look at my operating system. How do I eat? How do I dress? Okay. What is success? All of these areas. And then it can be finance. For some guys, it's millions and millions of dollars. They're chasing whatever they're chasing. Some other guys like, hey, like I'm the happiest, whatever person in the world setting my own hours or working for this other company and making X dollars. It looks different for everybody. Mm-hmm. I simply define wealth as I get to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, with who I want to do it with, for as long as I want to do it.
Absolutely.
If I have that kind of freedom in there, but if you want a private plane, like you're going to have to change, like my metric of success isn't going to work for you. But if you want a small footprint, a high quality footprint, if you want to be able to travel X number of weeks or months a year, if you want to be able to do certain things, well, okay, my numbers work for that, for me and for my family. But if you want this, this, and this, you may have to make some changes. Mine might be further than others are willing to go, where they can be content and be happy. It comes back again. It's back to ownership. It's about you. It's about what works. Yeah. It's about when you look in the mirror again, are you happy? Do you feel good about yourself?
I've known a lot of guys. I've known several guys in my life that, whether by just me looking at them and because I know them well, I can kind of understand a bit more of, what's not happening in their life, and definitely had some hard conversations, some very real conversations with them, just opening up about this. I think men struggle most, whether they're 20s, 30s, midlife, whatever, when they become detached from purpose or feel like they have no purpose. And I know a lot of guys right now struggle with that because there are so many options. I feel like we live in a day and age of a lot of potential and opportunity, but you're chasing a lot of things that can give you quick fixes, whether in financial means, professional means, just pure dopamine, enjoyment. But then you kind of look back and go, I'm not passionate about what I do. I don't feel like I have purpose or meaning. So how do we know what we're doing is in alignment with our purpose? And if we get detached from our purpose, how do we get back to it?
So that depends. And when what we talked about before is about, hey, this isn't about giving advice, it's about sharing experiences. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions, and it's nuanced around purpose and around passion and around how we have to combine our personal passion with, let's say, professional expertise, there. And if we haven't found our true purpose, or if we do and we're still doing something else, then we're somehow being inauthentic or less than we should be. And I don't buy that. I think if you're fortunate enough to be able to combine personal passion and professional expertise, that's amazing. That's wonderful. I certainly think it should be the goal. It took me a very, very long time to find it. I also believe that work is work. I think a lot of guys don't know what they're passionate about. The grass always looks greener. They love working out, so they think they should be a gym owner. And then they realize gym ownership is the worst thing they could have possibly done. I did that once too, in there. Or again, they're angry, they're resentful at their job or their career, and it's boring to them, and they never thought they were going to do that. But by the way, it pays really well, provides benefits, and instead of being angry at that, reframe how you look at it. I get paid very well to do all I have to do here is do a good job, take the proceeds of my profession and my acuity and my expertise, and take the proceeds of that to fund my passions. We don't not every single thing has to be integrated and combined in this quest for perfection.
So glad you said that. Yeah.
Hey, I said for years ago, you know what? I make a lot of fucking money hosting a podcast and writing a newsletter. And you want to know why? Because I didn't quit my job to host a podcast and write a newsletter. At the time, I had a multi-million-dollar book of business that threw off a considerable amount of money, and I had equity in a firm, and I was not personally and creatively satisfied. So I took it upon myself to be personally and creatively satisfied. And I created an outlet for myself. And rather than quit, what I had worked so hard to build up and have, I'm not done with this part of the journey. That would be irresponsible.
That's like a common, I'll say, mistruth or even lie, I think that a lot of people fall victim to, in that just because it is so easy now to pick up your phone, to pick up a microphone, a camera, whatever, and create something.
You call yourself a creator, call yourself a CEO, call yourself an entrepreneur. Founder.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's so easy to do that. And then we see so many examples, supposed examples of people making money, making good money from that. So then it's just like, I got to go all in. If I'm really going to pursue this, if it lights me up, then I gotta burn the boats and do everything. But that's not always the case.
That's another.
It's very counterculture.
This comes back to, again, who do you listen to overall? And yes, there's a lot of loud noise around quit your job and follow your passion. There's a lot of loud noise, on your Shark Tanks and everything else. Like, I'm not investing in that because you're not all in. You know what? Well, guess what? I got a mortgage, okay? I got 2 private school tuitions. I got 2 $70,000 cars in the driveway. I got all this. You know what? No, I'm going to hedge.
All in is me being very all in on the honesty I need to have with my situation.
Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to work weekends.
Yeah.
I'm going to work nights, okay? I'm going to max out my sick days, if you will. I'm going to milk this company, this position who, quite frankly, doesn't really care about me. I'm going to look in the mirror and go, okay, how do I want to operate? I may not be the CEO of this company, but I am the CEO of my own life.
You know, that's exactly what I did when I started this podcast.
I have no doubt.
The last year of my job, at a director level, I used sick days, maxed out my sick days, PTO, work weekends for a year to build this up to what I'm doing now.
Yeah, and it's not sexy.
No.
Okay, and people don't want to hear that overall. They don't. They cringe at that because that's the truth.
Yeah.
That's the reality. I have a mentor of mine now who we're in a keynote speaking organization. We've written books, and he speaks, and this guy's on a totally different level, just absolutely crushes it. But one of his early advice is like, how do you know when you're a full-time speaker? I'm like, what do you mean? It's like when you max out your sick days. It's like, you don't quit your job to become a full-time speaker when you have no demand.
Yeah.
You'd have no bookings and everything. You quit your job to become a full-time speaker when, guess what? You're getting so many gigs because of the outreach you've done at night, on the weekends, everywhere else, that now, wait a minute, the second I leave here, I'm booked for the next 2 months.
Yeah. This is good. What do you think is another piece of bullshit that's running rampant right now that surface level is kind of like very appealing for guys?
High performance lifestyle. This notion of what high performance lifestyle looks like or should look like and live like and feel like. And it's not a knock on anybody out there or anything that's out there. It just happens to be a term that I think has a perception of a kind of guy that seems, almost hustle, grind, 24 hours, sleep when I'm dead, multiple workouts a day, like all the stuff. And it's intimidating. It's intimidating and it's scary and it's, quite frankly, it's not sustainable.
No.
And you know how many of those guys, I can say this in my 50s right now, I've seen burn out, get injured, have a problem, and their identity is so wrapped up in this, this obsessive compulsion of high performance. Make more, do more, lift more, earn more, go, to keep up with that, it's exhausting. And I think high performance is what you determine high performance looks like. I don't dislike the term. I don't dislike the lifestyle. I question sometimes the application again.
Yeah, by definition, I think to be a high performer, it has to be very individualistic. How can we have an objective standard of high performance when we are not all the same people?
Correct.
We don't have the same starting point. We don't have the same biology. We don't have the same finances. We don't have the same socioeconomic or home situation. So to think that we can attach ourselves to this standard of high performance and that it's always going to look and feel the same forever, that's like our biggest mistake out of the gate.
It's not one size fits all.
No.
And that's something I think we gotta peel back. Success doesn't look like only one thing. High performance doesn't look like only one thing. There is no perfect diet. There's no perfect fitness program. There is no ideal amount of money or security or anything. It's what works for you. And are you putting yourself in a position to achieve the level of success that you determine is the maximum, if you will, that you're looking for, you're willing to do? And do you feel good about that? Meaning, you talked about, I love the open space. Okay. Guys that are obsessed with filling every minute of every day, that are in there. And you're not successful and you're not high performing if you're not, reading every book and filling every minute and doing everything. Oh, I've got time for 2 more calls today. And you're like, what? I'm going to sit on the couch. I'm going to take this hour and I'm going to sit on the couch and I'm going to chill. And you know what? I've earned that. And that's my definition of high performance, and it's built into my operating system. And this is where it goes. Again, mediocrity happens by default. Maximization happens by design.
Ooh, I like that. Say it again.
Mediocrity happens by default. Maximization happens by design. And we default into this place where, again, we think always we have to do more, be more, everything else. And what ends up happening is we end up feeling pretty mediocre because we're not really making the progress or the achievement or feeling like the success from all this perpetual motion and busyness. But when you look at what maximization really looks like, and it's by design, you've built in the open space. You're enjoying the fruits of your labor. You're being more purposeful and intentional with your actions. Therefore, the results you're getting are better. Momentum, compound interest, really, again, progress that happens in between the actual stroke. Row, wait, boat moves, row again.
Yeah.
Like you've seen this in all like rhythm and cadence.
Yeah.
Again, you see this frenetic pace. People on bikes or people in life or people in business, they always seem like they're frenetic and doing. And then some guy will just come, looks like he's coasting right by, almost effortless. Guy's got a rhythm. He's got a cadence. He's generating more power per each revolution. He's not frantically. He's got intentionality there. That's interesting. There.
With your 2 sons, they're 17 and 20?
18 and 21.
18
we just
21.
turned the corner on both, basically. Yeah, their birthdays are close. So it's like tick 20 to 21, then next month 17 to 18.
That's a quick turnaround. So with an 18-year-old and a 21-year-old, do you feel like when you look at them and the potential trajectory of their life, do you see more of their design or yours?
I really hope theirs.
Why?
If it's mine, then I think I'm doing it wrong. And I hope to positively lead them and help them and guide them, but their lives should not be mine. Or their lives, again, their design has to be their own. What I hope to instill in them are the tools to make better choices, the tools to be able to put together their own operating system, their own life by design, how they want to approach things, how they want to make decisions and choices and the actions they take and the choice. That I hope to instill in them. And by the way, their mother does a much better job at all of this than I do. But not to, this is how I work out, so this is how you should work out.
Yeah.
Or this is how much money I think you need to earn or to have, and you should do it this, or you should become a banker, or you should go to law school, or you should major in this, or you should go. No, like, I want you to make your own choices. Make your own mistakes. Have some of your own missteps. Not sure what you want to major in? Great. Okay. Take some different classes. Take some time, figure it out. I'm a slow learner and a late bloomer. I think I'm just getting warmed up. I'm just getting started. I think my boys have a tremendous advantage in that they're much smarter, much more mature, much wiser, better heads on their shoulders already than I had at their age and stage of life. But they get to choose. I hope my job is to be supportive. My job as a dad is to be fun and to be with them and to smile and to joke and to go to football games together and do all this other stuff. My job as a father, and there's a difference there, is to try to live and lead by example and make sure that they also understand where the lines are, where the boundaries, where the guardrails are. There's a time to be their friend and to be their dad and their fun, and there's a time, I think, also where you got to be their father. And then I hope that they understand the difference in how I act from time to time based on what I want for them. And what I want for them is to control and then to own their own lives, actions, choices, discipline. I don't need or want them to be me at all. I need them to be them.
Reminds me of, I guess we'll say a personal value that my dad instilled in me. And I think this is probably what influenced my life the most as an individual and helped me the most as a young man growing up. And probably the value I hope comes across most to anybody and everybody in my life, and that's integrity. And it's something that as I'm getting ready to become a new father to a boy is what I'm aligning myself with the most, because it's a lot. You've been there of your life is about to change in every single way. What I try to stay true to is I just want to live and act out of integrity, and I want him to know that as well. And when I think to what makes me a good man, and what I hope makes me a good man, and what I think hope is going to keep me on the rails of not having a midlife crisis, is just staying true to my personal integrity. Mm-hmm. Do you think most men have personal integrity now? And what is their relationship to it, if it is there?
Look, I don't know if I'm equipped to speak for what most men have necessarily or don't have, but I do believe that I think men really do struggle with making good choices and getting pulled in directions that maybe they didn't think they were going to go in. I think it get influence over time, situations, circumstances, jobs, careers, relationships, and the next thing, and they wake up 5, 10, 15 years later and go, this is not who I thought I was going to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, and again, it's not to justify it. We're back to ownership and in situations there. It's that 1% off course. I did this once and nothing really bad happened. Mm-hmm. And then I
get away with this, get away with that.
But I'm doing it for the right reasons,
right,
and I find ways to justify it. And then the real question is okay, can and when are you going to course correct? Will you? Does it mean enough to you there? And sometimes it's, wait a minute, I have a child now, so now I need to change. Who I am. The other part of that is, it shouldn't take a child for you to change. Again, this is back to looking in the mirror and being able to take ownership of things. I think also, again, we know when we're compromising our values, our integrity. And one thing I think about a lot is, okay, I'm not a religious person. We're not a religious family, either. But again, how do I operate emotionally, spiritually, physically, financially? If I'm doing those things well, or feeling like I'm doing them with integrity, feeling like I'm doing them with empathy, with some skill and some tact and maybe even some expertise that's come over the years in certain areas, or competency, then okay, we'll be aligned. Even in some of my other ventures and partnerships and careers, it's we were very different people in terms of maybe clients that we went after, the way we did things. But you know what? We were aligned morally, ethically, spiritually. That's integrity. Mm-hmm. So fine, if you want to do it with a suit on, or you want to do it at night, and you want to do it in the morning, and you want these kinds of clients, or this, okay, totally fine. As long as, again, what I'm not questioning is I'm not questioning your integrity. Mm-hmm. I'm not questioning the manner in which you did the deal. I'm not questioning the manner. You just just want to go after these kinds of clients. I want to go after these kinds of clients. I want to open this kind of restaurant. You want to open up that kind of restaurant. You want to talk about this on your podcast. I want to talk about that. But where we're aligned, you do all those other things. But I know you're a man of your word. Mm-hmm. I know you operate this way in these areas. Cool. So whatever the widget becomes, that's that's okay.
Yeah. How do we pursue a successful life? And let's just say in terms of our profession, our career, our finances. At first, I'll say it's okay to want that. And that's something that over the years I've become more and more comfortable with and have really stepped into. and has really been helpful for me as an entrepreneur, but also as a man, is it's okay to want to be successful. It's okay to want to have a comfortable life. It's okay to want to travel. It's okay to want to provide for your family or make opportunities for your business. How can we become more successful while still acting out of integrity?
Sure. I mean, first to your point, I'm not a minimalist by any stretch. I have no issue. Like, look, money's great. You know, like you want to live a life, have a life of luxury, do it, earn it. Like go out and do whatever again makes you happy. You know, I used to Google giant houses and all that. You know, now I actually Google tiny homes. You know, and
it always swings the other way,
things
right?
just change over time, and I think what this comes back to is about mastering the middle. Like not to over-index in necessarily any direction. No, look, I like quality.
Yeah, this is your jam. I know this is kind of your thing too.
Yeah, I like quality, and I want a smaller footprint because I don't like overhead. No, you start to figure out what mastering the middle looks like for you. But to answer your question directly, I think one of the ways to really do it is define what a good day looks like to you. Okay. Not the rainbow and unicorn vacation good day, the fantasy day that you rarely have, okay? Or that you have again when you go on vacation or when you do things. But what does a good day look like? As people say, what does a good day look like for you? Write that all down. And then how many of those can you string together? And if you start having repeated good day after good day, I can assure you, like that's going to start, that adds up to a good month, adds up to a good quarter. Good, you stack 2-3 good quarters together, guess what? Now you've had a good year. So it really comes back to being simple, being intentional, and understanding what works for you, what makes you happy, what makes you feel good, what is generating return, not only on investment, but return on life. So what does that look like? Okay. I wake up at 6 o'clock, give or take, every morning without an alarm clock. I have a cup of coffee. I don't rush out the door anymore. I take a look at my calendar for the day. I look at my operating system and my rules of engagement, if you will. I let the dogs out in the backyard. If it's Monday, I'm recording a podcast. If it's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm working with my clients directly. If it's Friday, writing the newsletter and magazine stuff. In between there, okay, am I doing yoga today? Like what day of the week is it? How many workouts am I getting in? Like what does a good day look like? When I used to pick up my kids from school before they could drive, am I picking up the boys today from school or am I driving them to school? Now I don't have that luxury anymore because one's out of the house and the other one's driving himself and doing it. So what am I doing at that time? And you start building these good days that meet, again, your standards and your goal. Okay, like that's a good Wednesday. Am I sitting down with you here and I have 2 hours for that? What was before? What was after? And I think if you can do that and you don't have to think so grand and put so much pressure on yourself, if you have that, I've got the 3-year goal, the 5-year goal, that's out there. It's in the action plan. It's in the map. But really the key, I think, Chase, is to reverse engineer back from that to the annual, quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily positive action steps that you're taking every day. And you just focus on that. And those good days stack up. Those good days equal good weeks, then it goes back in the other order. Those good days stack back up to good weeks, to good months, to good quarters, and ultimately to good years. And once you have that, it's like an update on your phone or anything. Like once you have that foundation and you've built on a stable foundation, now you can update. 2.1, 2.2. Okay, last year I was driving my kids to school and I loved that experience. I did it. Well, this year my son has a car, the joy of buying him a car and letting him drive it. So what do we replace? Am I replacing that time with anything? This changed, that changed. But those are slight upgrades. Slight differences. They're not starting from scratch. You're just looking at your operating system and you're going, okay, it's worked. I'm doing my recaps, my quarterly reviews, my annual stuff and going, all right.
So true.
What do I have to tweak now a little bit here? What's the next market you're going to go open a place in? Why? Because this one worked. And what does scale look like and how much? Maybe I want 4, maybe I want 6, maybe I get to 10 and I realize 10 is 3 too many. I mean, we all come to these intersections. But the key is, I think, that you operate the same way, you approach them the same way so that you can make the decisions that are ultimately the best ones for you. And in this case, now you're growing family.
Yeah.
I didn't want to mention that because I wasn't sure if you were going public with that.
No, I am.
But then you
though.
start to make okay, well, now I have a child at home. So we talked about this earlier. Is this the right time for me to sign up for a marathon? Or train for an ultra, or to put another big, hairy, audacious goal, on the calendar? Or is it the time for me to commit to being home, some paternity time, or maybe I'm not going to be as ripped for the next 6 months, but I'm not going to let myself go altogether.
Yeah.
To, those types of things in that percentage of the holistic and pie chart of it all, now family will take a bigger chunk. And then at a certain point, okay, well now, finance and the business piece will take a bigger chunk because I got another mouth to feed, and I got another thing, and I want to fund that college program. And then another time, this thing will take a bigger chunk. And you're just readjusting the dial constantly.
How long have you and your wife been together?
So we are going on 25 years of marriage, almost 29 together.
25.
We met out here, actually, in LA.
Okay. That's incredible. May and I were coming up on this month. Actually, will be our 8-year wedding anniversary. We've been together for 11. Thank you. How important is it for a man to have a committed relationship, be in a committed relationship, have a significant other, for us to be the man that we want to be, for us to reach our potential?
First, I think it's a privilege, and I think it's a blessing, that to have somebody that I feel in my corner for as long as I have.
It's the fucking best.
Look, and I think for me, it's needed and necessary. I would feel lonely and I would feel a void if I did not have that. That being said, what I think is more important is having the right person. And, I used to feel differently about this, about divorce, or even, all these things. And now I say, look, again, like I see both sides to this. And over the course of 20 plus, almost 30 years, people change too. The question becomes in these relationships, or any relationship, I think, are you changing and evolving and growing together? Can you accept one another's differences as you grow and evolve? I thought I had a good idea of like how Kate was going to be as a mom, but you don't really know, until you become an actual mom.
How could you? Yeah.
Right? How could you? Who we were in our 20s and why she was even with me in my 20s, I have no idea. Is so different than who we are now. So, and we're entering another phase now where we're going to be empty nesters in a year. So, who are we as individuals? When we get all this time back, for the last 20 years or so, we were, you could say you live almost, through your kids everything and everything else. And then all of a sudden you get some of your life back and your individuality back, and all of your conversations are not about who's taking this kid to baseball, who's taking this one to basketball, who's driving here. They're
what do we talk about? Do I even like you anymore?
Exactly. Everything changes.
Yeah.
Look, your sex life changes, your looks change, your financial situations change. How you parent changes. Your own parents change, like your relationships with your in-laws and brothers and everything change over time. So it's a roundabout way to say, look, what I'm really concerned about in terms of relationships, do we have the right relationship for us in this period of our life? And we have gone through ups and downs, trials and tribulations, and we have chosen throughout to continue to reinvest in each other and to be with each other. If that was not the right call, we probably would have made a different call. But we're fortunate and we're blessed to have not gotten to that position.
Okay.
So, do I also believe that it's better to be alone than in bad company? I believe that.
Yeah.
If somebody is bringing you down, holding you back, causing you unbelievable stress, anxiety, whatever it might be, and you find yourself in this valley of despair from a relationship that just is not working, then I understand that side too. Because I also believe there's another opportunity ahead for you to find the right partner out there. So I see both. I see life is too short to be in a bad relationship your whole life, and to squander what could be the best years and times of your life.
Or not even a bad relationship. I've been there. I think it's like, I wouldn't say this was a bad relationship, but it's not the one that I should be in.
Correct. So I see that side of things. And then I also see the side of, hey, like, we are committed to one another. And it's not easy. It's not rainbows and unicorns every day for 25, almost 30 years. But we're committed to one another. And this does work. And then the last thing I'll say is I also think that this is, I never know, and I can't speak for anybody else, like where their proverbial line, is. I've thought about this. I've written about this a lot. Like, what makes some people stay together and work it out and do it, and what makes other people get divorced and separate and go on, and where that line is. And I can't speak to that for anybody else, but I've always wondered kind of where that is. But I think if I had to lean, that I don't think the institution of marriage is taken as seriously, and perhaps it should be, in terms of, like, I think people are willing to pull the plug on things, like anywhere, that, like, too soon or too quickly, or they think it's going to be easier. And it's like, life isn't easy anywhere, period. The grass is not always greener, and with your job, with your career, with your boss, with your husband, with your wife, with your everything, it's not easy. So that's one thing I would offer. It's like, hey, like, when shit gets hard, like, it's supposed to be hard. Like, pressure is a privilege. These relationships are not easy. They're not perfect. And I think, it's a metaphor in all areas. It's like, hey, like, don't quit. Don't give up too soon. Really, like, feel like, have I really given this my best shot in everything that I'm doing? And if so, and if you can, again, look in the mirror, we keep coming back to the
personal
and say,
integrity.
What? Yes,
yeah.
I have given this my very, very best shot. I can live with this decision that I'm making.
What about before we get to that, this is the relationship that I want to commit to, and whatever that road looks like? There's a lot of guys out there, you're supposed to just tear it up in your 20s, never get married before 30, just sleep with as many people, men, women, whatever, as long as possible until you can kind of settle down. And it has to look like dollars in your bank account, a number on your calendar kind of thing. What's your take on that?
Perfect is the enemy of good. Meaning that I know guys that have said, again, I'm not settling down until I do this. Again, it could be any of the criteria that you mentioned. I'm not till I have the right job or position or security, or till I have enough money, saved, or to I've dated enough, other women or anything else.
Reach a certain body count.
Whatever it might be. And I would just caution that I think perfect is the enemy of good. And I think because of that, sometimes as if like they've missed great opportunities, or they've looked back with regret going, you know what? Like, she might have been woman number 2 or relationship number 2. And I thought that I needed to have 10. I set some crazy number, like for myself before I settled down. And you know what? Like I let the best one, get away, there. Or, man, I can't do it for these other reasons. Again, my position, or my job, or my finances, or whatever. But you know what you had? You had somebody that really loved you for who you are and was willing to take the ride with you and be there with you at the time. And you maybe passed that up because you didn't have enough pride, enough integrity, belief in yourself, or that you were good enough for this person right then and there. And you put this other pressure on yourself. I've seen all of that. You go back, we were talking about my boys before, and not giving advice per se, but as much as sharing experiences. I do tell my boys all the time, look, who you marry is the most important decision of your life.
Could not agree more.
Who you marry is going to be the most important decision of your life. And by the way, who you have children with is going to be an even bigger, like that's the most important. What could be more important than the most important? Well, that's when you have children with somebody. Yeah. And if you have children with the wrong person, okay, that will be with you also for the rest of your life. So think very, very carefully, long and hard, about who you are going to marry and who you are going to have children with. Because also, if you marry the wrong person and then you think that having children with that person is going to fix it, okay?
Yeah.
No. And that, I know way too many people who unfortunately marry the wrong individual. That makes that individual wrong. The wrong individual for them, the wrong relationship, and then ultimately had children with that individual. And now those two they're everyone's in each other's lives forever. And it adds a layer of complexity, no matter how amicable it may be or anything else. It adds a level of complexity that is harder. And by the way, unfortunately, in today's society, I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but that's the majority.
It's like, I think 67% divorce rate now, I think, in America.
And I would wonder how many of that 67% are divorced with children.
Probably the majority.
Probably got to be pretty close. I imagine it's probably pretty high up there too. It's probably not that far off.
60% of the time, they're divorced with kids every time.
Yes, exactly. So to that effect, again, I don't think it's quantity of what you have to go through. I don't, in terms of going through either women or whatever it is. I don't think it's dollars. I don't think it's this. I think it's quality. I think, again, and if you know, believe it.
You do. Yeah, I think especially if you think you don't, you do. It's just a matter of sitting with that long enough until you allow that truth to rise to the top and keep it with you every day.
One of the other questions is, listen, are we talking ourselves out of things more often than we talk ourselves into things?
Yeah, jeez.
It's certainly a lot easier. Again, in either direction, we tend to go for whichever path seems easier, the path of least resistance. Should I be talking myself out of this? Should I be talking myself into it? Am I talking to my friends? Are they talking me out of this or talking me into this?
Yeah.
Okay, and which one really is right? Am I doing this for myself? Am I doing this for appearances? Am I doing this because, look, this is how everybody does it, or this is what I'm supposed to do? Or am I really doing it for me?
Well, Greg, to wrap it up, man, I want to go back to this quote of yours that I heard. I believe you mentioned this on when you were recently on Gabrielle Lyon's show, and it just really stuck with me.
She's great, by the way. Right?
She is. Shout out Gabrielle.
Yes, yeah. we got a shout out to Dr. G. She's tremendous, and I really appreciate her having had me on her show as much as I appreciate you having me here. I mean,
My pleasure,
it's just
man.
A great opportunity.
And, just to give credit to her, she's crushing it. She's amazing. She's a mom. She's an author. She runs a business, podcast, social media, all these things. She was one of the first people to text me when we went public about the baby. And so it's really cool in these big life transitions, the people that are paying attention. People that are paying attention, the people that really, really matter and have your back, they really rose to the top. And she was one of them.
I'll tell you, that's consistent, and we can turn this into the Dr. G praise, the praise segment. But I don't know anybody that's had a bad word to say about her. People that I love and trust and respect speak incredibly highly of her since she moved down to Houston, and we've gotten friendly with her together and her entire family. I am just blown away by, again, like, she cares. I was talking about this earlier, like, to really be successful at anything, you've got to care the most, and she is one of those people who genuinely cares the most about people and what she does and how she does it.
She cares a fucking lot. And I think she would probably say it that way too. You said, did I do enough in the past to help me in the future? And I think if we just summed up our entire conversation, this great, long, meaningful conversation into that question, I would like the person, especially the guy listening, to carry that with them. Can you kind of elaborate on that, please?
My answer to it is, and I remember saying it, and I say it over and over again, but here's the answer. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I've done enough in the past to carry. I'm still figuring it out. My answer to a lot of things is maybe. I believe that maybe is a really good answer right now. That maybe I have, but I don't know. But what am I going to do tomorrow, to continue to do better? Maybe it's enough. Maybe I find that it works just fine. Or maybe I have to do a little bit more. I think, again, we tend to bog ourselves down with thinking it has to be absolute or it has to be black and white. And I think more often than not, again, it's nuanced. It's in the middle. I say the middle is messy. Middle is messy. Midlife or otherwise, but the middle is messy, but it's also the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And this really is about mastering the middle, like I've said. So the answer to that, more often than not, backwards or forwards, more often than not, is maybe. And I think as long as you're committed to making progress, then over time, those maybes will become certainties. And then there'll be another maybe, because there'll be another pivot. There'll be another obstacle.
Yeah.
Or there'll be another thing that's unexpected that you couldn't plan for.
Truth.
So, there it is. And that's why it might be cliche to talk about, again, progress being a process or the journey. You don't know where you're going. And any way you want to phrase these things and kind of put them on a board, and put them up there and do it. And like strip back all the glamour and the style and the influence and just go back to like, okay, like, am I doing the best I can? Am I making progress each day? Do I wake up with energy and go to bed tired, the good kind? Did I call my son on the drive over here and talk about, golf? He's picking up golf, like the things that make you smile. The little things are the big things. Yeah. And it's a longer answer to your question again, but it's like, man, like that's the stuff that matters. So I don't know if I've done enough in the past, to propel myself, forward in all these other areas, but I know I'm doing the best I can. And I know that the tools and experiences and generosity of others and things that I'm picking up from men like you, guys that are younger, guys that are older, from women, from all other areas, that we're stacking those to try to create a life that has value, that feels good, and focusing on the people that matter. And back to that rule number one, knowing what's important is what's most important. Am I proud of myself? Is my wife proud of me? Are my boys proud of me? Beyond that, most things are out of my control.
Yeah. No, I love that answer, because I think if we get really honest, and again, to kind of revisit our entire conversation, enough, even when holding it up to our own standards, should be relative, because it might have been enough for today, but tomorrow, am I going to hold the same standard? Am I going to have the same goal? Am I going to need to pivot? Am I going to need to, move into finances, move into relationship, move into physical, all the kind of your 6 F's, talk about.
I went to a conference yesterday, and you speak about evolution and growth and change and everything else. And it was a conference. It was at the intersection of sports and media and technology. And on the panel was CC Sabathia, Albert Pujols, Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. And these guys. It was a great panel. But what struck me about it was, to your point, they were talking about rule changes. Again, the game of baseball has been around and what are they still doing? They're evolving and they're growing and they're making rule changes. Now there's a pitch clock. There's all kinds of stuff that's going on in the game to speed it up. They removed the shift. All these things that I didn't know about.
Oh, thank God. I used to play baseball, but man, they need to speed that shit up.
Right. So here they do it. So the point being is that there's always room for, and they don't know whether or not it's gonna go well. At the beginning of any, I was like, oh my God, you can't change. You can't change this. And even the players were saying, well, after it takes us like a couple of weeks to adjust and to do it, and then you realize, oh, you know what, that's better, or
then it becomes your new norm.
Right. Yeah. So that's, that's my point in it. It can be sport, it can be business, it can be life, it could be anywhere. But, change is inevitable. That's the one constant. That if you're not growing, you're dying. There too. And if you're stagnant and you've reduced yourself to that conformity, complacency, redundancy, well, you're not really going anywhere. I mean, you build a book of business and you sit back on your book of business, and guess what's going to happen? You're going to lose a client. You're going to have a smaller book of business. If you're not still actively chasing new business and development, and all of those things are taking things for granted, we can apply in any one of those areas. So I just found it very interesting and kind of a metaphor that's like, no matter what's been around, no matter how much success you have, no matter how much history you have, and all these, you still have to be thinking about growth and evolution. And serving today's environment and situation and individual and community and that's out there. Yeah. And they just put it in baseball terms, but my takeaway was like, oh, okay. Yeah.
And here's one little thing I'll add to that. This has been a lesson for me this year, is that to think about growth and to think about creating more, doing more, being more, dare I even say having more, it is not the same as not being okay with what you do have. It is not the same as going like this is enough and that more is never enough kind of thing. It is, I think, the realest truth we could ever hold up to ourselves, especially, let's say, in our professional life, because when we get still, the rest of the world passes us by, and the rest of the world is going to keep going and growing, and then we're going to wake up one day, we're going to be really freaking behind the 8 ball,
But that is also to the conversation about high performance and definition, and to the notion that more is not always better, better is better. And
oh, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
So, okay, there are your guardrails again. And there's the, okay, where am I going from? There's a lot of white space again in the middle between those two things. So what is your happy medium? What does your mastering the middle look like? What is best for you? Because I would offer that the high performance could be either or, meaning like my high performance might look like a little extra time off, might more open space,
so
more
true.
of this, less is more. Somebody else's might look like, hey, I'm dropping the hammer and I'm going 110, for the next year because I want to get from here to here. And the only way I can do that is if I go this pace. I go, you know what? I'm going to run that marathon, but I'm going to run it in a 9-minute mile. You can go ahead and do it a 6-minute mile. Here's the thing. Your metric of success looks different for me, your capability. If I ran it at 6 million, 6 minutes a mile, probably blow a hammy, or not be able to go to work the next day or play with my kids. But at 9 minutes, I can wake up feeling pretty good tomorrow. Again,
and stay high performing in every other area of my life.
Bingo,
that matters more.
That's it.
Yeah.
Action reaction. I do this, this happens. I do this, this happens. Well, if I do this over here, I better be prepared that this, this plate's gonna drop over here. So, that's strategy. That's tactics. That's knowing yourself, honesty in there, all of those things. And that's what I really just enjoy working with guys on right now. Making it about, again, like, how do you see it? What do you think? What does it really look like? If we did this and this, let's play that out. Let's put that in a system. Let's test and retest that. Let's see. Okay, and that's where the confidence and the integrity comes from. Okay, I'm cool with this. Here it is. I can run this playbook, and I can feel really good about myself no matter who else is in the room, whoever else is at the table, whatever that guy, I'm running my own race.
High performance is doing what you want to do because you know why, and you know the results it gives you in the presence of anyone else or no one else.
Yeah, we can keep taking this conversation, and it's all about those things. It's, that's one of the things that happened. How did, the most change or whatever happened, or this, it's not from the things that I'm doing, it's from the things that I stopped doing. It's always about subtraction rather than addition. It's
Everyone go back, rewind, listen to that again,
It's always easier to add. It's like busy's easy. Complexity is easy. Doing more is easy. All this, it just finds us. I mean, you can't get away from it. It's on your phone. It's in your email box. It's on social. It's in comparison. It's in keeping up with whoever the proverbial Joneses are. More is like, boom, that's the easiest thing to get overwhelmed.
All right, man. Well, I know you got places to go and people to see, and I'm getting excited, so I got to stop myself here. But let me get to our final question.
Yeah, man.
And this has been a real treat. It's been great to sit down with you in person. It's great to see you again. And I thank you for your time and your willingness to just, share your truths and your experience with me, for me, but also with the listener, the viewer, for them as well. So the whole point of this show is to help me and my audience learn ways to, new ways and old ways that we need to come back to, and others we should adopt, or should try, I should say, to move us forward in life and to keep moving ever forward. So those 2 words, Greg, what do they mean to you? How would you say you live a life ever forward?
It's about thinking ahead. I mean, that's what ever forward is, right? We're moving forward. It's about thinking ahead. It's about living for today, but thinking ahead. And I see it as, again, I'm just getting warmed up. I think I said it before. Like, I feel like I am in, again, perpetual, ever forward motion, right now. And that's so I see it as liberating. I see it as freedom. I see it as opportunity. I think my best days are still ahead of me, not behind me. And I want more guys to feel that way. So what you're doing with Ever Forward in that movement, like, that's the direction we're going. So That's how I see it.
I love them. I always say there's never a right or a wrong answer. But what just struck me the most out of that was, I think, one of the best litmus tests we could ever give ourselves, especially as a man, is to, as many times as possible, but honestly, as many times as possible, say, I feel like I'm just getting started. And if you can keep that fire with you in the gym, in the yoga studio, at work, in the bedroom, with your kids, whatever, like if you can honestly feel like you were in pursuit of that as often as possible, man, you're fucking crushing it.
Look, what drives me is I hope other guys out there, you know what, I didn't see midlife that way. And now I see it differently. You know, Greg helped me with that, showed me what was possible, what was probable. And that gave me a new lens, a new lease on life, you know, a new lens to see it through. You know, that's what drives me.
Well, where can my audience go to connect with you, learn more about your work, your book, all this stuff?
Midlifemail.com. Very simple. You can go there. You can subscribe to our digital magazine that comes out every Sunday. You can subscribe to the podcast. You can get my free How to Maximize Midlife guide, you know, that's there as well, the book. So we break it all down. And we've got tons of great content on that site. I try to give everything I possibly can away on there. And reach out. I'm reachable. I'm not hard to find, and I try to get back to everybody as quickly as I possibly can.
Well, it'll be linked in the show notes for everybody and in the video description box. Greg, thanks so much, man.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Chase.